Redfall is only 30 FPS on Xbox Series X. I mean, I don't see the problem. That's 29 more frames than Gotham Knights.
Bro.
There's been a lot of controversy with Redfall lately with that 30 FPS debacle and some poor gameplay from IGN. But today I want to do something positive and talk about everything we know about the game and why I'm excited for the game. Let's go. Let me know in the comments why you're excited for Redfall. So Redfall is an open world single player co-op FPS from Arkane Studios, the studio behind Prey and Dishonored and Deathloop. But Redfall's a very different game to all of those, and I think it's hard to really put a label on what Redfall actually is, especially based on some of the initial marketing that we've had from the game, as it's a weird mix of Arkane's immersive sim history with that open world, but also looter shooter style gameplay on top, plus the 4 playable characters, and then the co-op element on top of that. There's a lot going on in Redfall. And Redfall itself is a fictional island town of Redfall, Massachusetts, and the island is under the siege by a legion of vampires who have blocked out the sun and cut the citizens off from the outside world. These vampires are linked to the scientists of the Avon HQ, who seem to have been experimenting on the townsfolk and themselves and caused this vampire apocalypse accidentally as they were chasing immortality. There are hints to the mystery of what's happening with Avon, what they're trying to accomplish here, that has been teased with the previews and the trailers. I mean, we'll have to wait for more information from the full game. I do have a video breaking down all the characters that you play as in Redfall, so go and check that out if you want to get that information. There is also going to be 2 additional characters coming to Redfall after launch as part of like DLC, but we'll just quickly give you an overview of the 4 characters at launch. The first is Devinder Crowsley, a cryptozoologist and inspiring inventor. He's a weird mix between, say, a Corvo from Dishonored with his blink ability, plus the UV beam that he has as an ultimate, also the electrical attack that he can do as his secondary ability. Layla Ellison is a biomedical engineering student who volunteered for a medical trial, and something went very wrong, giving her telekinetic powers. The first of those telekinetic powers is the lift ability, which acts as a jump for her as well as for enemies to lift them into the air. She's also got an umbrella-like shield that can absorb bullets to shoot back at enemies, as well as her ultimate summoning her vampire ex-boyfriend to basically be a companion for that ultimate duration. Remy De La Rosa is a brilliant combat engineer who has spent her life on the front lines. Her robot companion Brybon is the unique part of her kit. Her ultimate ability will use Brybon as a heal bot and also revive fallen allies. Brybon can also distract enemies with Siren as well as attack them, and her third ability is C4 Charge, which is a C4 explosion that can also be used as a jump. The last character is Jacob Boyer, who's an ex-military sharpshooter turned private contractor. His first ability is the Raven that you'll see following him around, which acts as a ping ability to ping enemies through walls. He can also cloak himself, becoming completely invisible, and when upgraded can attack while invisible, and his ultimate Heartstopper auto targets enemies with his sniper rifle, similar to Cassidy's Deadeye from Overwatch. Each one of these 3 characters will have their own full skill tree to progress their 3 unique abilities and add different effects to those abilities, as well as passive bonuses to improve your overall kit and playstyle for these specific characters. One of the big question marks for Redfall is how does co-op work? Now, co-op will require a persistent online connection, obviously, and at the moment it also is required for single player. Arkane have said that they are working on changing this requirement for single player players, so you can play offline, but we are unknown at the moment whether this will be in at launch. The co-op progression will be host only, however. So what this means is that if you're the co-op partner joining someone else's game, when you return to your world, you won't get the story progression you experienced during that co-op session. So if you're planning on playing the game all the way through with a friend, this won't really be an issue because you'll still have the same experiences for all of the events and see all the cutscenes and everything as the host, but it won't be reflective in your own world once you leave that co-op session. So it's really matters if you are planning to play some drop-in, drop-out sort of co-op with people. It's worth keeping that in mind. The open world of Redfall is the first open world game from Arkane that they have actually made. And I played about 90 minutes of Redfall, so if you want to know my full thoughts and what I did during my time in that world, I'll link that video here. Redfall's open world, however, is pretty typical to what you might expect in a game like this, with enemies and events to be found as well as you explore and you find secrets and little environmental storytelling things. The map won't have every icon or quest active as you go around, and same with the compass, so you're encouraged here to explore and find these quests and icons and things throughout the world and in the map. Personally, I really like this. Something that I hate about Ubisoft open worlds is that the map is like littered with a million icons. I really like this change to having the map not contain all of these icons. Your main quests and side quests will be marked on the map, however, so you will know where to go, but you will also find safe houses that can be activated as a place to pick up new quests and replenish ammo. Safe houses have missions linked directly to them, and once you've completed all the missions from a safe house, you unlock a mission to take on the underboss of that safe house's region. These are tougher enemies that, once cleared, you'll get the occasional resources from the safe house as you've, in a sense, like cleared that area. Now, all of these activities that you do complete in the open world will fill up like a threat meter, and this threat meter is essentially the vampire gods watching you, and once this meter is filled up, the Rook boss will spawn. The Rook is a tough melee brute that will hunt you down, and once defeated, you can loot that corpse for some sweet new gear, but the Rook is a tough sort of mini boss encounter that can really occur dynamically anywhere around the map depending on where you are the time you fill up that bar. Now, by the way, that IGN trailer that showed off that Rook fight was absolutely horrible. Like, I fought the Rook in my preview, and wouldn't you know it, I didn't leave my team to die and go and lockpick a random barn. It was actually an engaging fight, and I fought it properly and thoroughly enjoyed that encounter. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. So why I'm actually excited for Redfall is this specific thing you'll find in the open world, and that is these vampire nests. Unfortunately, in like all of the preview footage and trailers and everything, we haven't really seen a whole lot of what these vampire nests actually are, but I completed 3 in my preview, and these nests are like mini dungeons that you enter and clear out all the vampires and then destroy the heart in the center, and then you'll get like about a minute timer to collect loot from these little areas inside that chamber before it will close and you'll lose any loot that you didn't actually pick up. So what makes these nests unique is that when they're active on the map, nearby vampires will be tougher to kill, so you'll need to be aware of that while you're just exploring in the open world, and then once you enter that nest to try and destroy it, each nest will have unique modifiers that will change the way you'll interact with that nest. Say, for example, it'll have different vampires in there, or maybe elite vampires, or a particular type of encounter or something. Like, they're all different because of these modifiers, and I found that really enjoyable throughout my time. A lot of these sort of like, you know, mini challenge things that you see in open world games where you have to, you know, go and clear out a base, for example, right? It's essentially the same thing every single time. It's just enemies are split in different ways, but having these unique modifiers, I actually found that a fresh take on these sort of encounters that you do a lot in open world games. Speaking of that combat, you're not only going to encounter vampires, there are cultists. Now, these are basically cannon fodder human AI enemies, and they're pretty easy to kill, so you can show off your skills and take them out pretty simply, like the Eternals in Deathloop if you did play that, but there are also vampires littered throughout the world. In all of the trailers, we have seen just the standard vampire. We've seen a Watcher vampire, which acts almost like a camera up in the high ground that will alert enemies around them to your presence if they see you. There's the Bloodbag vampire, which will explode when killed. You've got the Siphon, which will siphon your health. You've got the Shroud, which will cover the world in darkness, so you can only really see a very small window in front of you. You've also got the Rook, which we talked about earlier. There is also an Angler, which I don't think we've seen in any of the footage, but let me know in the comments if I've missed that. And then you've got the major bosses and the underbosses, which we talked about earlier, but the major bosses of the Hollow Man, the Bloody Tom, Miss Whisper, and the Black Sun. I'm sure there is other bosses that we haven't actually been told about yet as well. Redfall will be launching on May 2nd on Xbox Series X and S and PC, and will be available day one on Game Pass for Xbox, PC, and cloud. It's also worth noting that Arkane have announced that Redfall is launching on Xbox consoles with quality mode only. So what that means is that on Xbox Series X, you'll get 4K 30 FPS, and on Xbox Series S, you'll get 1440p and 30 FPS, with a 60 FPS performance mode being added at a later date. Now, it's definitely worth calling this out, as this may affect whether you are going to play the game on Xbox or PC or vice versa, and also around how the game performs. If you're wondering what my thoughts on this are, like, you know, I think it is disappointing. I play pretty much every game on performance mode. I honestly think they should just release like a 1080p version with whatever that frame rate is, even if it's not 60, and just call that the performance mode at launch and then patch it later. That's just my opinion, but you can obviously have your own, and let me know that in the comments down below. And if you are picking it up on Xbox despite this, regardless of your platform though, if you do pre-order, you will get a gun as well as a weapon skin and a stake weapon attachment. Use those stakes, which are essentially just like a skin on top of assault rifles and shotguns, to stake vampires. So the skin doesn't really do anything other than, you know, changing the skin, but you will have these on assault rifles and shotguns. The Bite Back pre-order edition comes with the base game plus the hero pass for those 2 future heroes we discussed earlier, plus those weapon skins and some outfits for each of the 4 original characters. But at the moment, that's all we know about Redfall. I'll obviously have more for you at launch for content on Redfall. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.